How many times do you think you should be doing one task, but find yourself doing another that has nothing to do with it? If this is your case, you and almost everyone else on the planet suffer from procrastination. But today I'm going to tell you some ideas for solving this problem. Etymologically, procrastination is derived from the Latin verb procrastinare, to put off until tomorrow. But it's more than just voluntarily delaying. Procrastination is also derived from the ancient Greek word akrasia, doing something against our better judgment. Procrastinating is not being lazy. The lazy person is the one who does nothing and feels fine doing nothing. A procrastinator, on the other hand, is someone who does things so that they don't have to do what needs to be done. First, we need to understand that we are highly selective. And both at school and in the job market, we are in constant competition. Competition between ourselves for recognition and a limited number of awards. There are more people who want to get an A+ than the normal number of people who actually do. We can therefore expect that people will do everything they can to protect themselves when they don't get the grade they want or the recognition they want. Here's an example. It's 6 p.m. on a Wednesday and you need to hand in a report for college on Friday morning. You've just got home after a stressful day and, as you want to write the best report possible, you decide to eat something and take a shower first to relax your body. At 7 p.m. you decide that, as you've had a very tiring week, you need to rest your brain for the activity and decide to give yourself an hour's rest, watching TV lying on your bed. Before you know it, at 9 o'clock you realize that you won't have any more time to do the report that day, so you decide to set the alarm for 5:30 a.m. the next day to do it before class. Since you're aware that you're leaving important things undone, you get a bad night's sleep and, when the alarm goes off, you don't feel rested and hit the snooze button. You wake up at 7 a.m. and realize that you can't do your report before class. To make yourself feel better, you put your dirty laundry in the wash, or do the dirty dishes from the day before, or even tidy up your room to try and fill that feeling of productivity. After a full day of classes, you go back to your room at 6 p.m. on a Thursday and do the same tasks as the day before. However, when you try to go to sleep, you can't, and at 11 p.m. you get up and spend the night doing the report. At this point, you no longer care about the quality of the work, but only about finishing it, because it's more shameful not to hand in a piece of work than not to hand in the best work of all. After long hours, you finally finish. The next day, talking to your colleagues, they ask you how your report turned out. And you, with an excuse already prepared, say, "I'm not going to do well because I did it all last night." Have you ever experienced something like this in your life? If so, you're a born procrastinator. However, procrastination is not something to be ashamed of or a sign of weakness. It's not a defect. In fact, it's extremely predictable if you understand the dynamics of motivation through the self-worth theory of achievement motivation. Our mind wants us to be seen by ourselves and others as competent and intelligent. To achieve this, we will sacrifice or exchange other necessities for those that help us achieve this goal. And that's where procrastination comes into play. These people think that their innate abilities are largely responsible for their results. Effort also plays a part, but to a much lesser extent. And their results determine their achievements and, consequently, their sense of worthiness. In this case, the biggest procrastinators think that their results are equal or equivalent to their ability, which is equal or equivalent to their sense of worthiness as a human being. In this way, we realize that procrastination is not just a matter of habit, or a matter of not liking what we do, because people often procrastinate for things they love. For a long time, psychology thought that if you want to achieve something and be successful at it, then you shouldn't be afraid of failure. However, today we see that this is not the case. There are two different spectrums that can coexist. So, you may have a task that you want with all your might to accomplish in the best possible way, but you are also very afraid of failing. And many people have these two predominant ideas in their minds. In these cases, procrastination doesn't mean that the person is lazy, but rather that they are overwhelmed. This is where we understand that procrastinators are people with the same level of motivation as the average person. The feeling of paralysis refers to two opposing forces. We are driven by success on the one hand, but we are desperately afraid of failure. And this creates paralysis in people as if they were being pushed against a wall. They're restless all the time. They can't sleep, but they can't work either. The two forces are canceling each other out until at a certain point you think, it's now or never. If I don't start my report right now, I won't have time to finish it. And that's when the fear of not being able to complete a task becomes much greater than the fear of not accomplishing it in the best possible way. And when these two previously opposing motivations add up, you can write a 40-page report in a night, or your doctoral thesis in a week. Since we now have a different understanding of procrastination, how can we overcome it? The first step is to understand the concepts covered above and to understand what procrastination is. Doing the less important tasks of your day first is usually procrastination. So, the more we know ourselves, the greater our understanding of our tendencies and motivations, making it easier to overcome them. The second is to learn how to move away from motivations that generate fear towards other motivations. Many people think, I'm not motivated to do this, but often this isn't the case. It's simply that your fears dominate or outweigh your motives for doing it. There's a reason why you signed up for a particular class. There are ideas you want to take away, and skills you want to learn. There are benefits beyond school and learning that. But we're not thinking about that. These motives aren't in our minds and therefore don't affect us in a positive way. Motivation can only act on us if we are thinking about it or feeling it. Because that's the nature of motivation. A third way to overcome this is to have a clear vision of yourself. When you have this clear, you become a magnet for good events and productivity. But what is a personal vision? Well, it's how you want to be in the future. It's how you visualize yourself. Basically, we should have an image of ourselves in our mind, where we can see ourselves in the future physically, emotionally, financially, and everything else. Looking at this version every day makes the decision-making process a little easier. This personal vision is a sequence of images that you should run through your mind to make daily decisions a little easier with a simple question. Does this bring me closer to who I want to become? And that's it. The answer is yes or no. Finally, we must understand that our results are not equal to our capacity. Often our performance is less than our ability to perform. Sometimes it's the other way around. Who among you has never gotten a good grade even though you knew you didn't deserve it? But the most important thing is that your ability is not equal to your value. Think about the people you love and who love you, people you value and care about. It's not about your GPA or your academic record. Our value derives from our human qualities of kindness, consideration, and our vulnerabilities. To finish, I'd like to borrow a thought from Nelson Mandela. Let your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. Can we be motivated by those things we aspire to, not by pretending we don't have the fears, but despite them? Thank you all. And if you enjoyed this content, subscribe to the channel, support us with a like, and see you in the next video.